Hey, good morning. It is Wednesday, March the 12th. How is it the middle of March almost already? I do not know. It's crazy. We're going to do some hand lettering tips this morning. So, if you're watching the replay, say hello, give a little like or a heart down there, or share it with a friend, or share it on your page, so more people could see that. I am just double checking on here, to make sure we're good to go. There's that little delay. Okay, so let me tell you, last week I was not feeling good, and I've still got a little bit of that congestion in my voice, so you can hear that. So, we are going to do some hand lettering tips with a traceable today. I'm going to show you what I've got. I was rummaging around and I pulled out my old light pad that I got many years ago when I was first learning hand lettering. I didn't have an iPad, but I wanted to learn how to trace letters. So let me switch over my screen, and here I'm gonna do one thing to make sure we're good to go. Okay, so here, now you can see my table. All right, so I've got some tracing paper that I pulled out that I had in my stash, and then I also have the light pad. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that you can practice your hand lettering, and you don't have to do it just with a blank page. So if you're here and you're watching, say hello. If you've got a snack or something to drink, tell us what you got going on. A late breakfast, maybe. Mm, it's 10 o'clock for me, and I still have not had breakfast. I'm a big breakfast person, but I was just running around this morning. So after I get off here, I'm going to be having brunch, I guess. So look at this. Look at this. Okay, I found this in this tracing paper notepad, and it is some of my early practice from a long time ago. I guess, because I don't remember this, I guess I had printed out an alphabet that I really liked. There's websites like defont.com where you can just look at all types of fonts. Some of them are hand lettered, some of them are not, but this is one of my ways that I practiced hand lettering a lot in the beginning, was by printing out the letters on paper and then tracing over them. Look at all of that mess. Isn't that funny? And it's so teeny tiny too. I don't know what I was doing, but I wanted to show you that this is such a great way, if you find an alphabet that you like, that you can start to develop your hand to do it. And you know what? When I was in high school, I was obsessed with different kinds of handwritings. And so I did this without even knowing that there was something called hand lettering or sign painting or any of that. I just knew that I loved handwritings and different types of handwritings. And so this was the kind of thing that I did back then too, to practice. Say I didn't like the way that I did my R's. So I would practice a different way of doing R's just over and over and over. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Laura. Hello, Pam. So I used this tracing paper back then. And even here, look, it says the quick. Now, if you don't know this phrase, it says the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. That phrase, you're going to see that a lot on calligraphy. Like if you're given calligraphy exemplars or font websites, that phrase uses every single letter of the alphabet. So it puts it together so that you can see every single letter, but in a sentence, so that it's not just the letter standing alone by itself. So I even was trying to practice writing out that phrase. So anyway, that was something I came across whenever I pulled out my tracing paper this morning, and I wanted to show you how you can do it. So today, we're going to do a little bit of tracing paper and maybe even a little bit on the light pad. So here is a light pad. I got a real big one for Christmas many, many years ago when I first started doing hand lettering. This was my big ask. Like, I really want a light pad. And then I used it for a short period of time. And then I got my iPad, and then that kind of just changed things. But it is still such a useful tool. And it's so cool. So I've got some templates here. We're going to be using some templates from the Scripted Faith Collective. I printed off some of the new ones for this month that just dropped for the month of March. And so I printed a bunch of these off and was just looking at them this morning. I know which one I want to do with you, but all of these traceables, you could even scale them down. So maybe they're not as large. You just print them off, maybe instead of at 100%, you print it off at, say, 70%. So it just makes it a little bit smaller. Maybe that would make it feel a little bit more user-friendly. I don't know if that's the word, but more manageable when you're doing a tracing. Sometimes tracing larger scale things, the way we're going to do it today with the calligraphy pen, it's a little bit different than if you're tracing it and then you're going to use a paint pen or some kind of paint to color it all in. So when you're using a calligraphy pen, which is what I'm going to do today, you'll see it's a little bit different. So this is the one that I thought would be fun to do. Let me show you how the light pad works. So I'm going to turn it on. There's just a little button down here, and I can also adjust the brightness. So right now it's pretty bright, I believe, but if I hold that down, it will go real, real faint. So you can adjust how bright you want it. And then you can just take regular copy paper and you can put that over it. And so the light, reflects through the paper so that you can see it better. And it's just a really nice way to be able to trace. It's a good hard surface and you can press down and all that. Now, if you didn't have a light pad, I actually, before I got this, used to hold stuff up to a window and with a pencil trace. That was much more difficult. So you can see that because this traceable is black and not grayed out, you can still see it. It might be hard to tell with the camera, but I still can see it through. It's just not as easy. So that is still a way that you can do this without a light pad onto regular paper. And then, of course, we have traceable paper. So this is the Carson brand, or Canson, tracing paper. It is real smooth, and I have a little bit of some issue using this. It's probably why I didn't continue using tracing paper very much, because as a lefty, it does not absorb the ink very well. But you see how you can see that through so nicely. And I'm going to show you, we're going to do this. I've got my Pentel touch pen here, which is usually got a lot of juicy ink in it. And then I also have the Tombow Fudnasuki, but I use that all the time. That's my go-to. I also have a Crayola Super Tip. So that's pretty, it's got a little bit of a tip and then a broad side. So some people like to use that for calligraphy. And then the dual tip brush pen. So my brush pens, I've mentioned before, are all real frayed. They've gotten used pretty much to the max. So I am having to, I really need to buy a whole new set of those. But let me turn that light pad off there. So I feel like it's a little shadowed. So I just thought, let's play around, see what the different pens do. But the cool thing about using a template like this is you don't have to worry about your layout, right? That is the one of the most stressful parts of hand lettering is figuring out, well, what is this going to look like? How do I lay out my letters? How do I get my letters to nest? And so it can be helpful to take a template and trace what someone else has done. And as you do it, you're going to see how the letters fit together and you're going to learn. You're going to be building up a memory bank of how you can do different types of flourishes and things like that. So it will help you in the long run with having some templates to do. So, all right, let's start with this Pentel Touch pen. So I'll tell you, I've got my little piece of paper here that I'm going to put underneath my hand so that I don't smudge. It is difficult when you're left-handed with this kind of paper. Sometimes, when I'm doing the sign painting or the canvases like this that I did yesterday. Did y'all see this? If you didn't see my reel on this, go find my reel on how I did this. This is so fun. Again, I used one of these templates from the Scripted Faith Collective, but I was able, because it was traced, I even started over there on the R and kind of worked my way backwards. So you can do that. But if you're really trying to practice your hand lettering, you're going to want to write it from left to right, the way that we write. It's just going to feel more normal. So if you're left-handed, you may want to grab a little piece of paper to rest your hand on. And even if you're right-handed, between the rows, you may find that your hand, when you come back, might smear just a little bit. So it's just good to keep an extra piece of paper on hand. So we're going to just start here at the top and come around and trace it all nicely. And now remember, because we're using a calligraphy pen, we want to practice pushing down on those down strokes and then lightening up as we come up. And then you don't always have to do a flourish altogether. You can stop and pick up your pen and then readjust your hand if you need to, and then finish your flourish. And if it's not perfectly traced over, that's okay. You're just wanting to get that basic shape down. And so remember, this design was actually created on an iPad. And so look, I did my O and my R together, and then I lifted up before I start that T. Okay, remember, calligraphy is not the same as cursive. So you are going to take a little break between every single letter to help you get that rhythm down and to adjust your hand as necessary. It's just the proper way, and it's helpful, especially when you're first learning. So this design was created on the iPad with a totally different brush, right? And so the brush that I'm using in real life here, it might just be a slightly different size than what we've got from the iPad. And so look, I'm going to slide. Oh, actually, no. I'm so glad I stopped myself. I don't want to slide because I forgot to tape this before I started. So if you tape it, you could kind of lift it up and see what it looks like as you go. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep going here. And then whenever we pull the paper away, we can see where we need to make adjustments. But I don't want you to worry if you think, oh, my brush is not as thick as the one in the template. That's okay. Because remember, we're just kind of practicing the overall shape, the layout, our pattern of going and then stopping and lifting up. These are all good things to practice with traceables. Now my L here is real big and flowy. So that we can come back and thicken that up. I think it would be nice when we're done. And one thing I will say about this paper, so far so good with not smudging, but it is so smooth and your pen just glides over it. It's so nice because copy paper tends to drag a little bit more unless you get a real smooth copy paper. Sometimes you'll feel that drag a little bit more on it. So there we go. Worthy is the lamb. Now you can do a couple things. I wanted to show you how versatile the templates are. If you don't want to draw the lamb, you don't have to. You can actually, I'm not going to do it right this minute, but you could actually pull this out, cut the lamb part off, and then slide it up. And your banner, you could still make that come up right underneath so that it says, Worthy is the lamb who was slain. And you just cut this little flourish out and then you cut the lamb out if you wanted to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just trace the lamb because I think it's cute. I like it. Um, so, and that's another thing too about a template like this is that it gives you maybe just some things that you can draw that you wouldn't have thought of before. So I love adding in some doodles or drawings. And so, it's just kind of a nice little additional detail. And it doesn't have to be exact. I love to see people take these templates and then just make it their own and do their own thing and use their own creativity. But it's just really cool to see how people will take a template and what you do might be completely different from what I do, the colors you choose and all of that. So this I think would look really cool on one of these canvas panels like I used for this. And this is a 7x9 panel, and it's hard. So that is an option for doing something like, if you wanted to make something for your house or to give someone. But right now we're just focused on just some practice and, put on some music or listen to your favorite podcast. And it's just so relaxing. Let me know if you've used traceables before. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you have already done and if you have found it beneficial to your learning. So get our little lammy. Here we go. I'm just not worried about all the lines, but just enough so that you can tell he's got some hair. So I love the picture of Jesus as the lamb. The Bible describes Jesus as both the lamb and the shepherd. So isn't that interesting in different capacities? He is the good shepherd who watches out for his sheep and goes after them, cares for them, protects them, all of that beautiful imagery. And then Jesus is also the lamb who was slain for our sins, for as the payment for our sins. And if you've ever done a good study from the Old Testament or even Hebrews, a study of Hebrews is so good. I did that in my precept class many years ago and learned about how Jesus is the best sacrifice. Jesus is better is sort of a theme of Hebrews. And he is the high priest. He is the best sacrifice for our sins. Like the blood of bulls and goats and sheep don't take away our sins, right? They cover. Back in the Old Testament, they would cover their sins, but it didn't take away their sins. And then Jesus came as the lamb, the Passover lamb, and um, totally took away, just totally wiped out the sins of those who believe in him. So beautiful imagery. I love that. That's why I wanted to have a lamb in this drawing. So you see that as I was talking, I added in the grass, we did the banner, and then we're going to make sure we get those little details on the banner. And then this is nice. It's all caps. So we're practicing a different style of lettering. And it really does fit the size of my pen very nicely. So again, even though it's all uppercase, we've got thin upstrokes and then thicker downstrokes. And if you feel that your hand is shaky, you can fix that by just really making sure that your arm, position your paper so that your arm can really rest from elbow to wrist on your table. And then also just know that you might need to be warmed up a little bit. Like this morning, I haven't done any lettering and I came in here cold and I probably could have used a little bit of warm up too. So your hand will warm up as you go. And the more you build up your hand muscles, your strength, it will get less shaky as well. So, okay, so we have traced it and now we can remove the template and you'll see what we're left with. And so you can definitely see, well, I don't know if you can tell with the camera, but listen, mine is shaky too. Do you see on that L? It was really shaky. We can go back and thicken that up a little bit if you want to. Most likely the tracing paper, you're just using it for practice. So it doesn't really matter, it's not a finished piece necessarily that you're probably going to do something with. This is really for your own development, but I'm still going to go back in here and I'm going to thicken up all that. And as you go back over it, you can smooth out your shaky lines. So now you can see how with the template, you've now practiced how to bring your L up from the line above it and make it big, and how these letters have all nested really nicely together. See, it's straight, but the letters have that bounce to them. And so, like, my I is a little bit higher, and then my S comes down just a little bit, my T comes down. The letters have a little bit of a dance to them. So if you were to take a straight edge and put it right at the bottom, you'll see that they don't all line up. And that was by design because we were trying to nest those letters together better. So let me know if that's something that you have practiced and struggled with. So see if I go all the way up to the I, well, now we've kind of cut off the bottoms of these letters, but still it all looks like it's straight across. So that's called the dancing baseline. I do talk about that in the Faith in Lettering course that I teach online, to, how to take all your letters and put it all together. And look, I just smudged it because I wasn't thinking as I was just smoothing out my lines there. So, all right, that's our tracing paper with one of our templates. So here is the light pad, and I'm going to turn that back on. Let's see it lighting up. All right, and so now we could grab a different template. I'm going to try to do another one quickly. This one is a little bit bigger in its lettering size. So I'm going to use the Tombow for this one. This is a dark gray Tombow. It's the dual tip brush pen. And like I said before, my black one is totally frayed. So it's not in good shape at all. I need to throw that one away. But the gray one I think is in pretty good shape. Now, these are really fat tips. So it's hard to do fine details with these. Now you could turn it over and use the other tip, which is a bullet, like a fine bullet tip. Good morning, Candy. How are you? Thank you. This is like a hot, hot pink nail polish that I absolutely love. It's almost fluorescent. So it is a fun, fun color. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I have a little bit of painter's tape. I meant to grab paper clips because I was just going to paper clip these, but let's just tape them together at the top. That'll be good enough. That way we just don't have any shifting happening. So with the light pad, I can see through, excuse me, and this is just normal copy paper. I pulled it straight out of my printer before I got on here. And then I'm going to use the calligraphy side of this. And like I said before, this is a thicker tipped pen. So it's perfect for this template because this is a bigger design. It's a thicker brush that this was created with. So I could do it with the smaller one, but I wanted to show you a different pen to use. So again, we're just pressing down at a 45-degree angle and then lightly doing all the other lines so that they're not as fat. This one likes to make noises. Push down. And like with this O, be real careful. When you hit that bottom, you immediately want to release pressure and come up. I see people all the time with their O's coming over way too much to where it looks bottom heavy, and you don't want that. All right. So I think this is such a fun way to practice your lettering. And again, this is a different style. This all uppercase. You see how the T came over and then the O fit itself underneath there, nesting again. And so that's just a fun thing. It might give you some ideas for your own lettering. It's very relaxing. You're just going to lightly with that, bring that up. Again, you're going to try to release your pressure so that it goes from thick to thin. And that takes some practice. So don't get frustrated if that is not working out good for you at the beginning. It definitely takes some hand strength, practice, muscle memory, all of that. We did a different S for that one where we came around, and you can see again how it kind of fills up that space. I don't like a bunch of unintentional white space, which is why I love to nest everything. And then even this little flourish from the S coming up, and it's filling that gap of the O and U. So there we go. And that was super simple. And then look, whenever we take the template away, you could do different colors. So that's what I'm left with. And then look, because this is on paper, you could use this to create a little art print or something, but you could even let's grab like a light pink. Let's see if this one works. I don't know. let's do the fine tip side here. So you could even come up. I don't know if you can see that. It's so faint. Oh, you can't. Let me pick a different color so you can see it better. Let's see. I wanted a lighter color so that it would almost look like a shadow. Let's see. Oh, it's pretty light too. All right, we'll go with a darker color. How about dark purple? So you can practice your little drop lines here. Gives it a little bit of additional dimension and texture. So don't be afraid to try different little techniques, especially on something like this. But you can see how that just adds a nice little detail. And so I'm always going, I've noticed people have a tendency, right? So I always go to the right of the letter and then below. Some people go to the left and above, and there's no right or wrong way. It's just wherever you imagine the light hitting, but you want to be consistent. So if I'm going to do to the right and below on all these, I don't want to do the opposite down here. I want to keep it consistent the whole time on that particular piece. Candy says, Team Lefty. Love that, Candy. We lefties have to help each other out. We've learned to do life in a right-handed world. But a lot of times people think that they cannot do lettering as a lefty. And I'm always trying to leave a comment or respond back and say, you can do it. I promise you can. Be encouraged. It is not, maybe a grade school teacher told them that or their grandmother or something. I don't know, but it is definitely not the case. You just do have to make a few adjustments, but it is completely possible. Chastity says lefties always have the best hand lettering though. They say that lefties are more creative. I don't know if that's true. I know of so many right-handed people who are super creative, but I guess we use a different side of our brain. I don't know. Have y'all heard that before? So, I do know a lot of left-handed people who have got great handwriting. So, but I do think that that is maybe just something you're born with, when it comes to handwriting. Or maybe it's just a matter of how much should you practice at it? Because I always tell my kids, you know, you can improve that um, if you practice at it. So anyway, all right, I've done all the little drop lines here so you can see how that adds a nice little just variant texture to it. So okay, so this was two different templates that we used today from the Scripted Faith Collective. So this was one from the original drop. I launched this at the very beginning of February. And so then March came, we had our first drop, and I'm going to be adding new designs every month, as well as some bonuses here and there. So you can see how using a template like this can help you in your hand lettering. It's not a cheat. It's a resource, right? And so even with something like this, I could not have done this without a template. And I've got, I don't know, 10 plus years of hand lettering experience. And I love layout. That's something that I feel is a strong suit of mine. But I couldn't just come and do this with a blank sheet, with a blank canvas. I needed a template to help me do it. So being able to trace a template is not a cheat. And but it sure feels like it, because it's like, man, that helped, take away the stress, and it helped take some time from having to like, oh, I'm nervous. I'm going to mess this up. And then now I got to erase it and all that. You don't have to worry about all that with these templates. So anyway, there's a bunch more. This one I love to do. I'd love to do this on a live with y'all at some point. This is a song I grew up singing at church. Because He Lives, I Can Face Tomorrow. It's a great one. Someone had requested this one, Bloom Where God Plants You, and I loved that phrase. And so I did that. I had actually 2 requests this month that I did. And so if you have a certain phrase that you'd like to see, you can always request it. That's part of what you get as a Scripted Faith Collective member. And I look at those and will definitely try and incorporate them in one of the monthly drops of new designs. So if you haven't heard, you have another week to sign up for the hand-lettered hymn banner workshop. I am going to be teaching how to make this banner, and we're going to use a template. I'm going to show you how to do the painting for the flowers. We're going to go step by step. And so that is coming up a week from tomorrow. It's called the Hand-Lettered Hymn Banner Workshop. It's going to be a Thursday night and a Friday night, March 20th and 21st. And it's going to be so much fun. We're going to get together. I'm going to have some giveaways those 2 nights. And I put the little banner here for you to see. I have a typo in it. Oh, well. But you can comment HLH for the link to sign up. It's just $10. And you will walk away from that night with a finished banner. Replays will be available. It's going to be happening in a private Facebook group. So once you register, you'll get the link to sign or the link to get into the Facebook group, and you'll get your supply list so that you can get your supplies ready to go. You can get them from me if you would prefer that I just ship them to you so you don't have to worry about it. And then all you have to do would be pick up your paint. So that is starting next, like a week from tomorrow, Thursday. Super excited to get together. Ladies have already come into the Facebook group, and I would love to have you there. So anyway, that is the live for today. We are done. Let me know if you have done templates before, if this was something that was useful to you, so that I can know better what to do in future lives, more of what you would like to see. So y'all have a wonderful Wednesday. God bless you. See you later.